Hi, this is Cory Stark, Director of Emergency Management from Elbert County. Taking a few minutes of your time today from our Emergency Operations Center in Elbert County. Spring is here. Tornado season, severe weather, all of that's just right in our backyard for the season. We want to ask you a couple questions today. Are you familiar with what the term shelter in place means? Are you familiar with what you might need to do in the event of a tornado? Have you looked at the area you live and play in and identified where some of the safe places are for you to take shelter should a tornado or severe weather come into the area that you're at? What I want to talk to you today about is sheltering in place. Understanding what it is that you can do in the area that you're in to take shelter and protect yourselves from severe weather and tornadoes. So join me for a couple of minutes. Let's look at some key areas and some key concepts that you can do to make sure that you can survive a storm. Okay, let's now talk about the true definition of sheltering in place. What does it really mean? It means for you to take shelter right where you're at in that immediate area rather than evacuate to an area that might require exposure to the elements, travel, or require distances that are not feasible in that emergency or natural disaster. Sheltering in place means finding the best type of cover, the best possible scenario for you in that moment. Sometimes evacuating an area are just not feasible. This is when sheltering in place becomes a very real priority. That's where we want to continue the awareness of making sure that you're taking a look around your area and finding out what might be the best possible shelter in place scenario for you and your family. Now, think about this in your environment. Do you have a basement? Do you have an area that's got hard concrete walls? Do you have a cellar? Things of that nature. These are areas, low-lying areas, that would be ideal for you to take shelter in. Now obviously they keep you down below the surface. They protect you from the elements and the debris that might be flying around during a tornado. They also give you the chance to stay out of harm's way. Other things that you might think about though in your house, bathtubs. Go to your bathtub, grab blankets, comforters, jackets, things that you can put over yourself to keep you protected from debris, flying debris that may come from the tornado damage. Did you know that in some of the recent tornadoes in the Midwest, a woman and her child was reportedly saved from a tornado by staying in the bathtub when the rest of their house was destroyed in a tornado? Okay, now we've covered the definition and we've covered some low-lying areas, basements, covered the bathroom. If you don't have these things and you're in a building somewhere, always go to the center of the facility, center of the room. The key is that you're trying to avoid windows and doors, things that can be blown in, throw debris, throw objects that might injure or kill. There are also areas that have solid walls, sometimes solid walls, and have areas that you can stay down in a hunkered down position to keep yourself safe. These may be your best options, but they're going to be the best ones in that environment. The one thing that you might want to consider also is protecting your head. You know, we talked about having blankets and comforters and things in the bathroom, but you know, if you're at home, if you have an old motorcycle helmet, maybe a bicycle helmet, you know, these are things that you could throw on in that environment to be able to protect your head from that flying debris. So again, low-lying areas, bathrooms, and then we're also talking about staying in the center of the room, staying away from windows and doors. Now, what if you're outside? This is something that people talk about a lot. I'm outside. If I'm stuck without adequate shelter and all I have is my vehicle, well, get inside the vehicle and buckle your seatbelt. Get in there, keep your head down below the glass, and do everything that you can to keep your head free from the debris and keep yourself attached to that vehicle. You know, they say that you should never try to outrun a tornado. If you can get to a low-lying area in a field, that might be your best option as well. They say you should always try to avoid staying under the overpasses on the roadways. Biggest thing is buckle yourself into that seat belt. So these are just some things to think about. Now, on the final side, on the flip side of the shelter-in-place concept, or I should say the back side, is to stay in that location until you get the all clear. This is an important note. You might not be able to know that that tornado is completely passed. Now, in our environment here in Elbert County, we're going to send out a notification if there's a true tornado in the area that it's passed. This is a good time for you to do a couple of things. Do you have a weather radio at home, a NOAA radio with fresh batteries? This is a good time to consider getting one. This is a good time to consider putting fresh batteries in the one you have. And did you know this? A lot of times your family radios, the FRS radios, they have weather radios in them. So this would be a great option to keep in your go bag or your 72-hour kit that you might be able to grab to go into your shelter-in-place location, so you can hear from the National Weather Service direct when the tornadoes have left our area. Plus, they're a great communication tool in your family communication plan to be able to identify and let people know where you're at. So the other thing you might want to consider is always keep your cell phone with you if you're using the 911 reverse notification system, or what we call Code Red here in Elbert County. This is where you can also get to the weather messages to come to your cell phone. If you're not signed up, we encourage you to continue taking the time to go to our county website, hit the Code Red link, and get yourself signed up to get these automated alerts. You can put 2 phones in. You can put your house phone and your cell phone. Things to think about. If you have questions on that, don't hesitate. Contact my office. We'll get you set up and get you activated. And it's a good time, if you're not from the Elbert County area, to contact your local emergency management office or 911 center and ask them what they're using for reverse notification and maybe even weather notification components. Take the time to be proactive in your community and find out what you need to do to help protect yourself. Now, the other thing to think about, let's say there was a tornado, okay? There's damage, debris. Be very cautious about what you're getting into when you start coming out from your shelter-in-place location. You don't want to touch power lines. You want to be very careful with the downed debris. You don't want to get injuries after the tornado has passed by cutting yourself on glass and doors and things of that nature. So it's a good time to be very conscientious about what's in your environment if a tornado has in fact come through and caused damage. So a couple things I want to talk about briefly, and then I'm going to wrap on being prepared. We all have to take some responsibility when it comes to knowing when the weather systems are in our area. Look for the areas that are providing information. Look for the tools out there that are providing information on the daily outlooks and the possible weather patterns for our area, especially for those of us that live out here in Elbert County, where spring weather brings the very severe threat of these type of storms. Start your day out with a good brief on the possibility. Know in advance that there's a good possibility you could be needing to evacuate. And if that's the case, maybe an evacuation area outside of where you live would be a possibility if you give yourself enough time. So look for those notification tools. Couple things. The Elbert County website, www.elbertcounty-co.gov. Now this is where you'll find the link to Code Red. Get signed up, tell a neighbor, tell a friend. We're in the season, it's here. We're starting to see the storms show up here a little bit. Let's take that time to be that link in our community. Now, when we talked about looking for follow-up information and looking for preparedness tips, social media. Social media is a great tool for us to be able to extend our reach to provide information and updates on preparedness and information. We encourage you to take a minute to look at where the social media sites are in your community. Look for the official reports. For us here at Elbert County Emergency Management, we're using social media and Facebook and Twitter to deliver priority messages, preparedness information, updates on pre-storm, post-storm. These are places where you can go to find the latest. Now we have set these up to where you don't have to have a Facebook account to use them, but we want you to know that they're there. Check with the other response agencies that you might be interested in, your law enforcement agencies, your fire departments. other emergency management offices. These are all places where you might be able to find these links for information on when the storms are coming, when the storms are here, when they've passed, things that you could do to continue to protect your friends, family, and loved ones. So with that, these are some extra tools. Take the time to know your surrounding, understand what you could do to shelter in place, and find that immediate shelter in the exact area that you are when leaving, or the outside conditions are just too hazardous for you to move on the heels of a storm. Shelter in place. That's going to do it for us here at the Emergency Operations Center. We hope that you continue to take a few minutes. This is Cory Stark saying, have a good day.